Right, I think. Okay. Hi, thank you for joining me. If you're coming in live, if you're going to replay at least, because it takes time for people to find me here. Welcome to my daily Facebook Live. This is Messages from Masculine number 86. And today's topic is you didn't come with it, or you didn't get born. You weren't born with instructions, and why love can sometimes be challenging. So this was the topic today. I was actually at a picnic of all places. Actually, but there was a beach party, and this topic came up. So before I jump into the conversation, if you're just jumping in, please feel free to share this out with your friends on Facebook. You can do that, I believe. You can also ask questions in the comments below, and I'll respond to them. This is Facebook Live, and it will be replayed on YouTube. So watching on YouTube, this won't make any sense. But if you're on Facebook Live, let me just turn this. That's a bit more square. It was plugged in instead of alignment. So my name is Barry Selby. Welcome to my broadcast. I'm known as the Love Doctor to my friends and clients. I'm a relationship attraction expert and a passionate champion for the divine feminine, and I help strong, successful women find balance in love, life, and business. So you can't hear? It should be okay. Can you hear me? Can you double check? Can you hear me? Just double checking that because someone said they can't hear me. Can you hear me? I'm hoping you can, because my phone, as far as I know, is running. Okay. Can you hear me? Comments on that. I trust that you can. I mean, I'll go talk for a while, and if nothing happens, I guess that means nobody can hear me. Well, thank you. Thank you for joining me, Neil. I appreciate you being here. This is a deeper topic than often people will listen to, and most matchmakers, it's a very dim sound. All right, that's very odd. Turn the volume up. Hang on 1 second. Hold on a second. I'll do it this way. See if that makes a difference. I'm not sure why it's dim, why it's quiet. Everything is going fine. All right. Hang on 1 second. Bear with me. There. Okay, can you hear me now? This is I'm doing the friggin' Sprint commercial, the Verizon commercial. Can you hear me now? You can hear me good. Well, I'm glad you can hear me good. I'll use the earbud now and see if that hopefully will make it sound better for those people who have challenges. And I'll listen to replay myself afterwards and verify. All right. So getting to the topic. This is something that came up in conversation today when I was actually at a beach party from my church. We had a fun time at the beach, and this conversation came up. I was talking to somebody about abuse. Well, I'm glad you can hear me. And basically, what came up, what started it a little better? Well, Lisa, maybe your end, maybe your volume's lower. Other people seem to be hearing it, it sounds like, so it may be your end is having some challenges. If not, I'll find out afterwards when I sign off and go, oh dear. But thanks for letting me know. You missed the beach. Yes, it was fun. It was kind of cloudy, marine layer type stuff, and a bit windy, but we had a good time. The choir was there too, doing rehearsal. So anyway, I was at the beach having the conversation, and one of my friends came up to me, saw me with this, and said, dude, what's going on? What are you doing with that? And I was like, don't get worried. But I told him the story, and I've talked about this in a previous broadcast, but just in a brief summary, I talked about how this is a symbol of 1 in 5 children are sexually abused by the time they're 10, which is pretty horrendous numbers. And so this is kind of an awareness bringer. There's actually a website you can go to called thepolishedman.com, and the hashtag polishedman will find different pieces about this, and that's what that's for. So anyway, so he asked me about that, and I said, yeah. I said, the thing about abuse, as much as it's a thing that is such a shame, and yes, something like 96% of the perpetrators of abuse are men. So it's kind of us as men stepping up and being visible like this, with a painted nail to stand out from the crowd and say, we want your attention, and say, let's stop this happening, however that works. But I was talking to him and I said, that abuse is hereditary. But it's not biologically hereditary, it's behaviorally hereditary. And we got into a conversation about this. I wanted to share it here as it might land for you. The title says, you didn't come in, you weren't born with instructions. None of us were. And it's amazing that our parents could raise us. They basically raised us the way that they were probably raised, because they didn't have user manuals or instruction books either. So the way they raised you was likely based upon how they were raised by their parents individually. So your upbringing was largely based upon your dad and your mum's actual personal upbringing from before. Just think about it for a second. if you have any memory of your parents telling you what their upbringing was like, it's basically likely that they perpetrated on you, yes, perpetrated versus just gave you, behavior they learned themselves. So the behavior that they passed down generation to generation to generation from, grandparents, great-grandparents, etc., can impact you in a very positive or perhaps a very negative way, or it has a very neutral background. And so when it's talking about abuse, and sexual abuse in particular, some of us, when we're very young, I wasn't one of these thankfully, who are like 4, 5, 6 years old, who may have suffered the hands of an adult who basically sexually abused them, apart from the shame and all the emotional baggage that goes with that, a piece of programming gets installed that basically is along the lines that if they're abused when they're a child, they can often, these children, because again, they don't have the awareness to choose differently, will take on the belief that that abuse is how love is signified. Sexual abuse is often tied to how loving is expressed when it's done inside a family. I don't mean being, no, I'm not going to talk about rape and other things, a whole other conversation, but sexual abuse within the family, where an adult, like where a father or an uncle or a brother sexually abuses the young girl, she may have taken on the belief, one, she'll have issues with dating anyway, it's a whole other conversation, but she'll also take on the belief in the programming that her way of being loved comes through sex. And she won't necessarily know that consciously, but the wiring is in there. So that's the piece about how we don't come with instructions and how love life can be challenging. There's a story that I remember reading a long time ago, and it was one of many of these, of a story from the Deep South, where there was a domestic violence case, and the local police were called, and they come driving out to the house, pull up outside, and they hear all this crashing and banging from inside the house. They run up to the door, and knock on the door, but of course it's so loud inside they can't be heard. They open the door, go inside, because I guess in the South you don't have to lock your doors. They go inside, and about a minute, 2 minutes later, after a lot of growling and low voices and rumbling and yelling and stuff, they come to the front door, dragging the husband between them. So they're dragging this big burly man. He's got a white beater t-shirt and he's a fire engine red face from fury. And the two police officers, who are big burly guys too, are dragging him down the garden path to the police car. They get about halfway down. The wife comes staggering to the door, and she is like a mess. Black eye, bruised lip, blood pouring down from her lip, disheveled hair, torn clothing, looking a mess. And as she leans against the door jamb to get her breath, she starts to lean forward and starts running down the garden path. In her hand, she has a kitchen knife. As she runs up behind them, the cops are trying to struggle this guy to the police car. She reaches up the knife and she stabs one of the police officers in the back, actually in the shoulder. And people are like, what? I've shared this on interviews before, and they're going to go, what? Excuse me. And I said, bear with me. When they finally got, the paramedics came by and they patched up the officer and they got the husband in the police car, they basically gave some medications, some tranquilizers to the wife to calm her down. And when they interviewed her afterwards, the distillation of what they understood from her, the reason why she stabbed the police officer was because she had believed that they were removing her only source of love. Think about that for a second. She was so upset that the police were taking away the man that was the only source of love that she believed, she literally would attack one of the police officers with a knife to try and save him from being taken away. That's an extreme case. But the reality I firmly believe is that when you look back in the history, this woman came from a very abusive background. By her mum, by her dad, by her brother, somebody in her family, when she was a kid, abused her, and she got wired in her consciousness. Abuse and love go together. So she attracted a man into her life who basically, in fact, she probably dated quite a few men who didn't abuse her and she didn't feel loved. It's kind of like one of the others, it's like, take the 5 love languages from Gary Chapman, add about 5 horrendous ones. This is one of those, where it's wiring that we've taken on because of the way we were raised. I shared before in my videos, and I'll share this one from my personal story, because it's actually, I was on one of my summit interviews aired today, and I heard it again, and I talked about it, and it landed, is I came from a very stoic British Reserve family. Being Jewish in England is very, concise, stiff upper lip and everything. My belief growing up, I should say my awareness growing up, is that I saw my parents as a youngster always caring about us. I mean, I had the perfect family in theory. My brother and I raised in a very loving household. Never a cross word, never an argument, never any abuse, no hurting. I mean, occasionally we got, butt slapped for something stupid. But that was, deserved. We didn't think anything about it. It was painful at the time and embarrassed, but it wasn't a long-term thing. So that was the experience I had growing up. Fast forward to my teens and in my early 20s, in my dating life, I'd been going out with a girl and having I was very clumsy, to be honest. I wasn't very good at this stuff at that age. And I'm not saying I'm perfect now. But I would basically get together with the girl and would have this building of love and connection and intimacy and kissing. And it was all like, it was kind of very, very naive and very young. But about a month, so maybe 2.5, 3 months at most, into that time together, something would happen and I would upset her. Something I'd say or do or didn't say, she would just get upset with me. And she'd say it. And she'd voice her upset with me. And I would just shut down and I'd leave. And I wouldn't come back. And I did that probably 4 or 5 times in different dates, different girls I was going out with that time. Well, when I look back and realize that my upbringing was, my parents didn't argue. And I believe my parents were very loving. In fact, my belief was all the way till my mother passed away, they were very loving. That was almost 60 years. I had taken on programming without realizing it, that arguments don't go with relationships, because my parents never argued. That was the logic. And it's so obvious now, looking back, and actually it was about 5 years later I got to understand this. But I realized that I didn't understand that people who cared about each other could actually get upset, because my parents didn't demonstrate that. So my instruction book that got imprinted on me was love didn't include arguments, or upsets, or hurt feelings. That was a telling lesson for me. Now, I'm grateful that was the lightness of the lesson, because other people have had much more traumatic experiences of abuse or addiction or neglect or other things where they were raised with that in their childhood, and then as a parent, or as adults, they propagate that or they perpetuate that in their relationships as an adult. But that's kind of the lesson I wanted to make sure you heard this. Part of my work with my clients a lot of times is to go back and rewrite their history, because the programming that we take on, the beliefs we take on, are embedded at the age of 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. In fact, around age 7, according to Bruce Lipton, who does the biology of belief, around age 7 is when our sponge-like brain stops taking things automatically, and we actually get a gatekeeper called the conscious mind that comes online and becomes the filter through which everything goes. And we don't then have decision. But the only challenge is you've sort of closed the door after you've already filled the tanks with all these programs. So you may say, well, I know now what I do things, and I can take charge, and I know how to date and do everything else. Well, yes, and you've also got an automatic tape playing in the background that is subconscious. It's beneath the conscious awareness. It means it's running without you knowing, which means you tend to find yourself in relationships. If you did, with a magnifying glass, look at your past relationships, notice some traits and patterns that are repeats of what you experienced as a child. I hope this makes sense to you. This is a powerful piece of the technology and the stuff I work with my clients, because part of working with people to help an amazing relationship is not just to find them the perfect date, it's to make them the perfect partner. Perfect being whole, healthy, and complete, and also transparent and vulnerable. Well, to get there requires doing some inner work. That's kind of the secret of my mission, my work with my clients. So this makes sense to you, and you can take this to heart, and you can work with this, because this is a powerful lesson to learn. If you do learn this, you can change everything, because this is not just applicable to relationships. The things you watch your parents do, and it's kind of what you watched, not what you heard, but what they said. Sorry, what they did rather, because actions speak louder than words. Most of what you took along as a kid imprinted was what they did. So if you saw the way they handled money, the way they handled jobs, the way they handled each other, the way they handled their roles, the way they handled the way they did religion, dealing with relatives, dealing with driving, all these different things that you experienced your adults doing when you were a kid will be filed away in the filing cabinet in the back of your mind. And so as an adult, you would tend to default to those behaviors unless you took conscious dominion over your thinking. So that's your answer. Take conscious dominion of your thinking. It sounds so easy. But that's the piece of this I want to make sure you got. It was something we talked about earlier when I was at this picnic earlier, beach party earlier, and it was it was like the eye-opening conversation, and I wasn't trying to teach anything, but just he asked the question. I said, I told him what this was for, and then explained it, and I said, this is what's going on. So many of us are running automatic programming that we came in with because of our parents. So no, you didn't come with an instruction manual. And yes, love may be challenging, but there are ways to work with this. So if that's something if you have a challenge with this and you want some help, reach out to me. And if you know anybody who's dealing with this, please share this video with them. This is not for the faint-hearted. But if you're fed up with dating the same sorts of people again and again and again, and you don't want to deal with that because it's not working for you, this is probably the answer. Probably. There's more to it than that. but I want to just get something out there. It's one of those deeper topics for a Saturday night. I know it's like something light for Saturday. I decided to put something like this out. So that's my talk for today. Thank you for watching. If you've liked my Facebook Lives, I do these every day. This is number 86, an ongoing series, so tomorrow will be 87. I hope this is value to you. If you have any questions, please put them below and I'll answer them when I sign off the video. And if you want to share it with anybody who you can think might get value from this, share it with them. And if you want to watch my other broadcasts, they're all on my Facebook wall. They're also on my business page where you see them more closely gathered together because there's less other stuff in there. Also my website, which is barryselby.com. You go to the video blog. If you want some help in this area, just go to my website, which is barryselby.com. Click the Let's Chat button and book a chat with me, and we can talk. All right? Thank you for watching. Take care of yourselves, because you deserve the best. And if you're not getting what you want, find out how. All right? I'll see you again tomorrow.